Hi, my name is Mary Zupke. I'm a dietitian here at Living Well and at Northwestern Medicine in the West region, and we have another episode of Quick Bites. We're starting off our international segment. So today is France. France is my favorite country, so we're starting with that, which is super exciting, and it's known as the culinary capital of the world in many circles. So we're going to get started, and one of the things that we know from French cooking is crepes. So we're going to get started making crepes today. Actually, I'm going to put this down. The trick about crepes, and crepes come from the Brittany region, so the northwest region of France, and what you want to do is kind of put the batter on the edge of the pan. We might need a little bit more here, and then swirl it around, because if you do it starting in the middle, it'll cook too fast and then you won't be able to lift it off of the pan. So the pan needs to be pretty warm. But you only need 30 to 40 seconds on each side. Now the batter we're using today is just a basic crepe batter, so it has flour and eggs and a little bit of water, a little bit of milk. It's very basic. They started making crepes in Brittany when they had what they called porridge, and some of it dripped out onto a pan on the fire, and they said, wow, this tastes pretty good. So then they started making crepes, and it's kind of become a French staple. So you can see now that the sides are lifting off of the pan, and the pan's pretty hot, medium to high. And you can see it's lifting off. And you don't have to use a crepe pan like they do in France. And then you just kind of flip it over. Look at that beautiful brown color. Now this is the basic crepe. We are also going to talk today about a buckwheat crepe. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. When you're making the crepes, you can make the batter 48 hours ahead and just cover it and keep it in the fridge. And then when you're storing crepes, you want to store them with either parchment or plastic in between. So this beautiful crepe, you can top with berries. We have 3 different types of crepes here. We have berries with a little bit of chocolate sauce that you can see over here, and that's basically melted dark chocolate. And then we have bananas with Nutella. So those bananas are just sauteed lightly, tiny bit of butter, or you could probably even use olive oil, sauteed lightly, and it brings out all the sweetness of the banana. And then the third one is probably the most traditional French. It's just a little bit of sugar or honey and then lemon juice. And that is a French delicacy. So the next kind of crepe we're going to talk about is buckwheat crepes. And they are a little bit trickier to work with, and you can see that the texture is a little bit thicker. Buckwheat is actually from a grain, and it's a gluten-free option, so that's kind of a nice alternative. They are using a lot of buckwheat crepes now for the savory side, and today what we did was we made these savory crepes. They have spinach and mushrooms and fresh parsley right on the top. So a lot of times in French cooking, you'll see very thick, creamy sauces which have a lot of fat and a lot of heavy cream. So for this sauce, we actually used my little lower fat trick, which is evaporated milk. Now they have, a lot of times we know about evaporated milk as being sweet that we use in a lot of our baking. But this is evaporated milk without sugar, and it's just this is a 2%, or you can use a skim. So the evaporated milk is a good little trick. Per serving, this only has 25 calories, so it's a nice low-fat alternative. So those are 2 different series of crepes, and then we're also going to make our salad here, and we're going to do, here, I'm going to put that right here. We're going to make a lovely French vinaigrette. So the first thing we need for our vinaigrette is Dijon mustard. So we're going to put a good 1/4 cup of Dijon mustard. And then when I lived in France, the way they taught me how to make the vinaigrette is to put equal amounts of red wine vinegar and your Dijon mustard. So put another 1/4 cup in there. And then you're going to kind of whisk that together. And the mustard kind of helps emulsify. So the trick to the vinaigrette is adding olive oil slowly and then not adding more than half of what you have in the container. So you add a little bit of olive oil, and then you see how that kind of emulsifies together? Oh, it's so delicious. And then every time you can add just a little bit more, because you don't need to add, you want to add less than half of what's already in there, as I mentioned. So the more, every time when you have a little bit more of the total ingredients, you can add more olive oil. All right, so we just need a little bit more olive oil. And then this one also calls for a little lemon juice. So we're going to put a little bit of fresh lemon juice in there. All right, we've got our lemon juice, got a little bit more acid, and then they will always use fresh parsley. So fresh parsley, we're going to add that in. How delicious. It gives every salad a nice fresh taste. A little bit of pepper. And then the vinaigrette is ready. And you can see kind of how it's a little bit of a creamy texture, but it's just the olive oil, the mustard, and the red wine vinegar. All right, so before we add that onto our salad, we're going to add some roasted asparagus, which we did in a 400-degree oven for about 15 minutes. And that's got that yummy fresh feel to it. Oh, delicious, high in antioxidants, very high anti-inflammatory. And you can see already in here I have these luscious beets. I have hearts of palm, which is the very center of the palm tree. It's a very French ingredient as well. And they're very delicious. They give your salad a nice little crunch. And then we toasted some walnuts, so we're going to kind of sprinkle those around. They go really nice with the beets. And then we garnish with a beautiful goat cheese around the outside. They are big into cheese, as you probably know, in France. And then we will add our vinaigrette. How delicious. So when you're making your celebration of your international countries, there you go, beautiful. You can use all of these different French ingredients. And I would encourage you also just to make it festive. Now this is actually a little dish towel that I had. And then this was an old olive oil bottle, and I had some lavender growing in the backyard. And then you can just kind of make it festive. We have a couple of champagne goblets that just have soda water and a raspberry garnish. So try to make it festive when you're celebrating. The last thing I have here are some beautiful red pears and cheese. Usually the French will have their main course, then their salad, then their dessert, and then they have a cheese course. So I put that out here as a little reminder. We don't always have to have something super sweet to finish a meal, and in France they do fruit and cheese, which is delicious. Thanks so much for joining me today, and bon appetit and merci.